Have you ever met someone, smiled, shook their hand, heard their name, and then, just seconds later, completely forgot it? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. In fact, forgetting names is one of the most common memory struggles people experience. And surprisingly, it has very little to do with intelligence. Because forgetting names isn't about having a bad memory. It's about how your brain prioritizes information. Think about it. When you meet someone new, your brain is processing a lot at once. Their face, their voice, their body language, what they're saying, how you should respond, and even how you're being perceived. In that moment, your brain is overloaded. And here's the key detail. Your brain doesn't treat names as important information. Names are abstract. They don't describe anything meaningful about a person. Unlike a job, a personality trait, or a story, a name is just a label. So your brain often doesn't store it properly in the first place. That's why most name forgetting doesn't happen because you lost the name. It happens because you never fully encoded it to begin with. There's also something else happening behind the scenes. Attention. When you're introduced to someone, you might think you're paying attention. But often, you're actually focused on yourself. You're thinking, what should I say next? Or, do I sound confident? Or, what do they think of me? This self-focus pulls attention away from the one thing you're trying to remember, their name. So ironically, the more socially aware or self-conscious you are, the more likely you are to forget names. Another fascinating reason is something psychologists call retrieval failure. Even when you do store a name, your brain sometimes struggles to pull it back out. You've probably experienced this. You recognize the person instantly, you remember where you met them, but their name is just out of reach. It feels like it's on the tip of your tongue. That's not forgetfulness. That's a retrieval issue. The memory is there, but your brain can't access it at that moment. Stress and anxiety make this even worse. When you're nervous, your brain shifts into a more alert, survival-focused state. It prioritizes detecting threats and managing emotions, not storing small social details like names. So if you often forget names in social situations, it might actually be a sign that you're slightly anxious or overwhelmed, not forgetful. There's also an interesting personality connection. People who are more imaginative, big-picture thinkers, or deeply focused on ideas tend to care less about surface-level details like names. Their brains naturally prioritize concepts, patterns, and meaning over labels. So they might remember what you said, your story, your opinions, but not your name. On the other hand, highly detail-oriented people are more likely to remember names because their brains naturally focus on specifics. This means forgetting names can sometimes be a sign of a more abstract, idea-driven thinking style. And here's something most people don't realize. Faces and names are stored differently in your brain. Your brain has specialized areas designed for recognizing faces. That's why you can recognize someone instantly, even after years. But names, they're stored in language-related areas, which are less strongly connected to visual memory. So the connection between a face and a name is actually weak by default. That's why you can look at someone and think, I know this person, but still have no idea what their name is. Your brain simply didn't build a strong enough link between the two. There's also the issue of repetition. You usually hear a name once, maybe twice, during an introduction, but your brain needs repetition to store something effectively. Without it, the memory fades quickly. Compare that to how often you see someone's face or hear their voice. Those details get reinforced over time. Names don't. That's why names are one of the first things we forget. But here's the important part. Forgetting names doesn't mean you don't care about people. It doesn't mean you're rude, careless, or unintelligent. It just means your brain is working efficiently, filtering out what it sees as low-priority information. In fact, many highly intelligent and creative people struggle with names for this exact reason. Their brains are focused on deeper processing rather than surface details. Still, forgetting names can feel awkward, even embarrassing. You meet someone again, they remember your name, and you're stuck trying to avoid saying theirs. So what can you do about it? The solution isn't to try harder. It's to work with how your brain naturally functions. One simple trick is repetition. When you hear someone's name, use it immediately in conversation. Say, "Nice to meet you, Sarah," or "So, Ahmed, what do you do?" This reinforces the memory right away. Another powerful method is association. Link the person's name to something familiar, a visual image, a celebrity, or a rhyme. The more unusual or vivid the association, the easier it is to remember. For example, if someone's name is Ali, you might imagine them holding an Ali sign or something distinctive. It sounds silly, but that's exactly why it works. Your brain remembers unusual things better. Also, focus your attention during introductions. Instead of thinking about what to say next, pause for a second and truly listen to the name. That small shift in attention can make a huge difference. And finally, don't panic if you forget. Trying too hard to recall a name often makes it harder to retrieve. Relax, shift your focus, and the name might come back naturally. At the end of the day, forgetting names is a completely normal human experience. It reveals something interesting about how your brain works, what it values, how it processes information, and where your attention goes. So the next time you forget someone's name, don't be too hard on yourself. Your brain isn't failing you. It's just prioritizing what it thinks matters most. And now that you understand the psychology behind it, you can start working with your mind instead of against it. Before you leave, here's something interesting. If this video made you think even a little differently, that's your brain craving more insight. So go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe, because this channel is all about understanding the hidden psychology behind human behavior. Drop a comment below and tell me what you think, or suggest a topic. Your curiosity might shape the next video. And share this with someone who loves understanding people, or maybe someone who needs to understand themselves a little better. Now click on the next video on your screen. Your mind will thank you for it.